Hi, Marina.
Hi, Liat. When we talk about our bank account or even think about it, we right away go to the traditional way of thinking, which is income versus expenses. However, I know that you focus on the importance of revenue. Can you elaborate on this huge change of perception on our bank account?
Yes, yes, thank you. I'll start with a story, a true
Mhm.
story. Around a decade ago, we had three little kids. They started growing up, and with them, the expenses kept
Mhm.
growing. I was looking for ways to, find balance between what comes in and more money goes out. I opened a spreadsheet. I took all our bank accounts, all the credit cards, everything that we spent. I wrote down 3, 4 months back to log what we already expended, how our money goes out, and started tracking for a couple of months forward. And everything that came out, I, as a good girl, went to the
Wrote.
spreadsheet, wrote it down, the cash, the credit cards, everything. As I was looking at the end of the month, what I saw is what brought me to do this was the feeling or the knowing that we were more or less in a zero balance. Everything that came in just went out within a month.
Okay.
And after a few months of doing that, hoping, that now I'm on the budget and now I'm, tracking my expenses, making sure we don't spend money that we don't have, I realized something that hadn't happened before,
Hmm.
and is that we spend actually more than our income.
Hmm.
And I was really puzzled. How did it happen? Because, I was on the budget. I was making sure we don't spend money we don't
Hmm.
have. I saw it again the next month and I said, something is not working for me. Putting aside that it's really, tiring to just write down everything that you spend, I saw that it doesn't create any change. And even worse than that, I have more expenses than ever, and I actually don't close the month. What was before a zero balance now is a negative one. Went back to our normal routine, still trying to figure out, how to again create more income or more money in our bank account. As most of us, I was mostly focused on two things. One is
Hmm.
what comes out, and one is what comes in. I saw that, tracking what comes out, our expenses doesn't work. So I was very busy, looking for ways to have more income because that's the other side of the equation. That's the only two way I know to have more
Yes.
money.
And
And
that's what all the experts tell you to do,
exactly,
right? For
exactly.
having more money.
Have more money. And what I saw on that side of the equation is that even on months, and I'm self-employed, I have my own business, I can create more income, supposedly.
Hmm.
And I saw that in months that I have more income, somehow we have more expenses. It can be
Hmm.
some surprise washing machine that
The
needs to
breakdown, yes.
replace, or some expenses for the kids, or something in the business, because sometimes, when you need to create more income, you spend more money. And I realized that it doesn't matter what I do, whether I track the expenses or I work on the incomes, I, at the end of the month, stay with the zero balance. What came in
Hmm.
went
It
out,
went
and
up.
we're not growing in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came across a book that is called Profit First. And
Hmm.
it has a whole system that I admit I didn't do. It's great. It probably works for many people. It was too much for me. But there was one concept there that I didn't think about. And I actually have a BA in economics, and it never came to my mind to think about it. Every business, you have the income, you have the expenses. At the end, you have the profit. What stays? What the revenue? Okay, what's
Hmm.
left after all of this drama? We see the revenue and the profit as a side effect. Okay,
Hmm.
it's not something that you aim for. It's something that was created. Like you can aim to have more income. You can work on your
Hmm.
income. You can try to have less expenses,
Expenses.
and the profit is what will be left after all of that.
Hmm.
And the change in perception, exactly, this change in perception in this book was put profit first.
Hmm.
Don't think about the income because, again, you can have more income, but you have more expenses. It doesn't help. Don't focus on expenses, but
Mm-hmm.
focus on what you want to have at the end of all of this, what you want the profit to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so instead of having income goals or trying to cut on the budget, I
Mm-hmm.
started having profit goals
Mm-hmm.
for my business and for my bank account. I started instead of again being so obsessed of what comes out or being obsessed of how can I earn more money. I started putting goals for how much money I want to be left in the bank account at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And what was amazing is that, I was trying to cut on expenses. I was trying to have more income. But the only thing that really shifted was when I started focusing on the revenue, on the profit. And what happened is that my business doubled and tripled in revenue, in profit over the following years. And our bank account actually grew 10 times
Wow.
within, I think within a year, 10 times
Mm.
in the balance. What is
The
there
bottom
for
line.
savings and for investments after, after everything is out, after everything is in. It took me a few years later that, when I started teaching manifestation and reality creation and what we actually talked about in our last episode, it was all about where my focus went. And when my focus went on expenses, there were more expenses, even though I didn't mean to have more expenses. I was trying to have a budget. I was trying to cut on
Mm-hmm.
expenses. But
Mm-hmm.
since I was so busy in expenses, that where my energy went, that's where my focus went. And that's why there were more expenses. And when I was busy on the income side, I may have created more income, but it had nothing to do with the profit because, again, we can have more money, but we spend more money, nothing more is left. And when my focus went for profit and what is left in the bank account and what is my savings and what goes to investments, that started growing. And I have to say that in the last 5, 6, 7 years now, I don't even have, definitely not expenses goal. I merely have an income goal, but what I mostly have as a goal of what I want to be left for is investment, for savings. And it's amazing how reality just react to what we hold, reflect to us what we choose to focus on. The beautiful thing about this is that you don't have to live below your means. And even today, when I want to have some sort of spend money on something, I don't think if I have the money for this or no. I just say, okay, this is what I want to spend money on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the amount of money I want to have for savings and investment after, the end of the month or the end of the year. And I just know that everything will find a miraculous way to work around that and it will be okay. Just knowing that
Mm-hmm.
everything will fall
Mm-hmm.
into place
Mm-hmm.
where when
Mm-hmm.
I am focused on the right things, I don't get obsessed about incomes, I don't get obsessed about expenses. I
Expenses.
just
Mm-hmm.
know what I want. And the only thing that I update each year is how much money I want to have, in the
Left.
savings for me to feel secure because one of the things that I did realize about myself is what gives me peace of mind is not necessarily how much I spend and not how much I earn. It's just how much money I have on the side. And I just know
Mm-hmm.
it, the money works in
Mm-hmm.
investments. And I know that there's money there in case of, something happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
what really gives me peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the only thing now that is my financial goal. And it keeps growing. And every year I just have a bigger number that I want, to create and have on the side. And it reacts
Works
to
well.
that. And it works.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm. Well, so I think that first and foremost, it's amazing, and I think that people really need to listen to this episode and be educated and to accept that there's a different way we can all learn from. What came up to my mind while you were talking was that when you focus on revenue, it's like you gain something. When you trust this process, you gain. Who doesn't want to be in peace of mind? So I think it's something that is so comforting, even.
Yes. And it's, as you said, it's really different from the way that people are used to think, especially in financial, because it's, it's
Hmm.
just numbers, right? It's an
Right.
equation, comes in, comes
Hmm.
out. There's
Hmm.
nothing more to it, but it's so not true. And, I call it the spreadsheet that put me in the net in the red because really, I was only tracking expenses. I didn't do anything other than that. I didn't spend more money. I didn't do anything, but it really took me there because I was only focusing on expenses. And I see so many people struggling with financial issues.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
actually, the other day, one of our students from the Masters Academy sent me an email that she have some sort of course on how to manage the family budget.
Hmm.
And she wrote me, your voice is so needed there because they only look at the numbers and the spreadsheets and something is missing and that's why it doesn't work for so many people and
Hmm.
most people, even when they do track expenses, they only feel they have less, which is true because they are focusing on less, they're focusing on what they don't have. It's such a change in perspective, and this perspective actually changes physically your bank account. And I think, one of the things people ask me often about manifestation, is it just, just a feel good vibe, like you dream and you feel good and you think all positive, and does it really have tangible results? I actually
Hmm.
went to the bank a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to the bank manager because I was opening a bank account for a company. And she asked me, okay, so what do you teach and what do you do? And I told her I teach manifestation and reality creation. And she said, it actually, there are actually tangible results for this. Like, does people really change something in their lives? And
Uh-huh.
I told
Uh-huh.
her, do you see the number that I'm transferring to your bank?
Exactly.
That is the result of exactly everything that I teach, and not the fact that I have a BA in economics, but because no, it didn't really make me money the way understanding manifestation and the laws of reality helped me create.
Wow, it's amazing. It'll take me time to absorb what you just said, but it was beautiful, beautifully explained. Thank you so much, Liat.
Thank you, Marina.